guys, it's me Loki here. You've probably seen a couple of my live streams before. I did one the other day on this game. So really, I'm just gonna do this bit of a small video and run through I guess what you could say a build. It gives you basically a bit of a hindsight of what possibly, what you can build out of these computers. Some of them are rather very expensive, some of them are inexpensive, but you can budget them. So we're just going to jump straight into the standard workshop, and we're just going to work on some that, I wouldn't say not too complex, no fancy custom word calling or anything like that. As you can tell, I have been playing around with a couple before, but today I'm just going to show you on, well, just a standard one really. So we ain't gonna do anything too cool in. So what we're gonna do is choose a basic case. We ain't gonna go through into anything too fancy. Maybe something quite nice. So this game is really simple, and I think throughout the entire time I'm doing this, I'm gonna show you guys basically. I'll explain the situations and my own personal stuff, because I can't physically show you IRL because I'm too poor to show anybody. Time to go to complex, shall we? Yeah, there you go. So full-size tower, basically full-size tower. Be able to take full-on full-size motherboards, so the different heights. Mini ITX, that's the smallest. Well, I won't say the smallest, but Mini ITX is one you can take. Micro ATX, which is small ATX. SATX, which is standard ATX. eATX is basically enlarged ATX, so it'd be even bigger. So there'd be 8 RAM slots in total, which looks. I'll show you. We'll go for this one. So, I'm gonna start working on the PC. Remove basically the basics of it, and these cases, working on these multiple different cases, will give us an insight on what we're capable of being able to do. So instantly we are hit with multiple different drive bays for the for starters, obviously where your SSDs are going to go, your fan intake for, obviously fans have one directional airflow, don't they? So we'll remove the front panel and remove the dust filter. So I've got 2 fans already pre-installed, 120mm fans, which obviously by Corsair they would have a standard high rating and reliability. So obviously to save a bit of money on the budget, we obviously we're not going to use them. Well, we're going to use them. Sorry, we're not going to get rid of them. So we've got case part bay covers, which allows us, by the looks of it, to install more SSDs or hard drives. But what we're going to do, we need that, obviously the little extra room, so we're going to remove these just here. All right, so we've. Oh, okay. Case part. We basically, I believe that it says that beauty panel. Beauty panel is a cosmetic form of for the case, basically. It gives it the cable management to hide some of the clustered cables where the power supply would sit currently here at the back. As is the mouse. As you cannot see the mouse, it's right here, located here. This is where the power supply would sit, currently at the back. So the current thing we're going to do is install motherboard. We're going to go for a basic. Let's just go for AMD. So we're going to install the motherboard. As it highlights the certain screws where they will need to go. These are standoffs. So obviously we're going to just use the standoffs to insert them. And you'll see the total value on the right hand side eventually as we get through this build, and we'll build it counting upwards. So there you go, the motherboard will sit on the standoffs, but before you put the standoffs on and insert the motherboard, the rookie mistake most people make is forgetting the shield at the back. This is called an IO shield for your ports and help protect the ports. So that will protect it, some will come pre-applied to the motherboard, so you can insert those straight away. But I would recommend picking the case up like that and laying it on the back, on this back side here, so you can insert the motherboard correctly. So we're just going to go ahead and screw these in. What you want to do is give these a firm, not too tight, but give them a firm screw in. But yeah, just screw it in. What I'm going to do is remove a couple of these because we're going to need these for our graphics card, which will sit exactly in this like lane just above where that box is there. So there's a white lane there. So we've got that. Right. Let's go ahead and install a processor. Processor, relatively simple. Let's go for quite a nice one. We have 2600X. What you do, where it says the CPU handle, you press that down, and you can like bring it over a little bit down, and you just basically pop it up like that. Then you install the CPU. On the CPU, there's a little, don't know if you'll be able to see it, there's a tiny little like golden triangle. You mark that up with a little mark on the CPU socket. Just be careful, no pressure needed. Again, just pop the handle back down, and boom, there you go. CPU is installed. Hey presto. Let's go for CPU cooling. So some people where they're starting out and they have fresh new builds can go for pretty much basic ones to be quite similar to each other. So as you can tell, these two here, these ones along here. Some CPUs will come with a pre-configured fan in the box. You can always use that, and they are really helpful. But what we're gonna do is go for the we're gonna go for one that's a little bit, I'd say, in a way complex. But these are quite nice. You can configure the direction. I would personally recommend the as in this standard formal way. As you can see there, you can rotate it to the airflow outwards. But with the direction of the fans, it will line up the rear one to help the airflow outwards. As you can tell, see it there. There's two of them, so we're just going to click that. That's inserted. The cables, we are going to just connect them. So rear one normally connects to a little tiny header here. These headers will look quite familiar. Then they connect the pump ones. Basically, the fans will connect to these two fans, or if they're daisy chained together. Daisy chain, as in there's a male to female, they would join together, insert to each other, and the airflow would exactly be the same. The current will get ran through from the motherboard straight onto the PWM header. So that's that done. Oh, blimey, I made a rookie mistake there. Got the remove the cable first. I haven't applied thermal paste. Do not do what I do. Always check over the always check over the pre-applied stuff on the thing. You do. Some companies recommend doing an X. Some companies just recommend a little tiny P size like that. Install cooling. I recommend doing a P size again. Obviously install it. Go straight on there like that. Okay, so it's not officially said what it needs fully doing, but there is tiny like brackets. There'll be like standoff screws, so the box will come in like in a metal chunk like this. There'll be little tiny arms like this, which will need to go into the holes, like just probably about where these two screws down here will go. So the hole they will screw into the holes there. Then obviously that will secure that on nice and tightly. But some people will recommend going from in diagonal, so like top left to bottom right, then top right to bottom left, which will give it a firm secure onto the pressure, so nothing warps or the weight of it doesn't fall off. Give them the recommended a fair amount of well, I guess you could say of tension on the screws to secure them firmly. I'm just going to go over ahead and apply that. Okay, so we've got the two fans, the CPU cooler and the CPU inserted. Again, if this makes no sense or anything, and if I have made a couple of mistakes, I have obviously, as you can tell, forgotten the thermal paste. So next thing we're going to do is go ahead and install the RAM. So the RAM is install. Let's just exit that. RAM's relatively simple. If you got 4, you could just open all 4 of these tabs up here. As you can tell, there's a little tiny that you should click back once. We're just going to choose a basics. Well, we're going to nothing too fancy. We're just going to go for the first one we come across. Let's go for 3000. So the RAM will insert on the set direction. It will go in. When you insert it in first person, the top tab should click down. As you can tell, they have clicked down, and there's little notches on the side of the RAM sticks, which will clip into the RAM stick to secure it place. One will click, and the other end will click. Just make sure they're all exactly the same direction. As you can tell, XPG down here, and the data up here. We'll install another one. We went with 3000. So if you only have 2 sticks, you have to do it in 1, 2, and 3. It'd be 1 and 3. There's the it's called the dual RAM. It's called dual ramming. Basically, it's dual channel RAM. If you do it in 1, 2, it will have boot problems. Maybe a couple of issues down the line. But 1 stick you can put in any slot. Obviously 4 sticks, no issues again. You can just throw them in all of them. See, there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey presto. All the same speed in the BIOS. Sometimes we may pre-configure the speed, so 3000 MHz and 8 GB the capacity of it. 3000 MHz, obviously the speed, as the memory timings, well, standard memory clock speed, I guess. So, well, that's pretty much done. So what we could do, I'll just edge it over there for a bit. Okay. Oh, no, okay. So yeah, that's the RAM. It's all pretty much done. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's pretty simple. Next thing we're gonna do is probably go for a power supply. So the power supply will give us a bit of an insight on what basically we can, how, like, well, so like if you went for the same case, it will give us an insight on how things could be inserted, where the cables could be ran, where the cables go. So what I'm going to do is just line that back up there, and the power supply will go down there. The box will look like a small tiny box, and as you can tell down here there'll be certain configurations on where the cables will be inserted. Always check the manual for what cables need to go where. Obviously I'm only limited of what I'll be able to do here, but these are for, I believe all the looks of it there is your 24 pin. One looks like for your power for your CPU. 24 pin for your motherboard, which is your main power for like your RAM, and obviously your PCIe lanes and stuff like that. And the rest of it's for your peripherals, like your graphics card, and you got your SATA ports, which is your SATA power for your either SSD or hard drives. Just go ahead and screw this in here. Obviously, make sure you can have it depending on the case and how you would like it. This is the correct way down. Just look for the obviously the correct way to read it. There will be a fan underneath that's that's pre-done to basically power itself and cool itself down. It can be I'm not too sure actually if it's capable. I'm not too sure about that. But if it's capable of being used as airflow, but you can rotate it, so you can flip it upside down, and I believe it won't make much of an issue. But the fan can pull air through them from the top. So if the fan was on the top here, it can pull the air down and out the back. Sometimes it's not really recommended, but that's why there's a dust filter here to keep this self cool, and it's not overheating from too much power being drawn through it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to install an M.2 SSD. An M.2 is a different form factor of an SSD. It's pretty simple, and what we're going to do is we will show you how it can basically go in. So the M.2s, they are quite nifty little things. They look no bigger than, well, I guess you could say a memory stick. I believe this is a B type key or a socket. There's a B and M, and you always check the manufacturer's website before you purchase the motherboard if you really decide to buy one of these. So what we're going to do is insert one. We'll have to open the panel first. Right mistake. Oh, well, we need to remove the cooler. Alright, never mind. So remove the cooler, open the panel first. We're going to install the M.2 SSD, M.2 SSD 2. So what it will do, you insert one end on the far right hand side, which will look like that. It'll have a bit of tension on it, which will go down. You'll have to maybe put a standoff there. It will slide in like that. You press it down with your finger and screw it in lightly with your other, let's say your left hand maybe, depending on how it goes. Just going to reinstall the thermal paste real quick. Oh god, blimey. Close the panel there. Making small mistakes already. So unprofessional. Alright. But for anybody that is watching, we'll give them basically a form of insight of how that's done. But yeah, covers are basically optional. They normally are recommended as a form of heat spreader to help dissipate the heat, which obviously your components will warm up. It can get a bit toasty, but sometimes they're not recommended. But it's entirely up to you if you want to put that back on there. You know, just go for the aesthetic reasons. Alright, so we're on cables right now. So as you can see, is connecting motherboard to the motherboard power, which will, as you can tell there, is highlighted down here, which can connect straight there. As you can see, the cables will run straight through there and the socket, and it'll run straight up the back. This is normally where you think, this is going to get loose, it's going to be messy. There's normally little tiny notches and holes on the side where you can cable manage it up right down here. Maybe use a couple of zip ties, the very small ones. Some will come with the cable management options or the tiebacks, as you can say. Not to mention, we got the front I/O, which is the front of the PC, so for your front audios, and USB ports, which will connect to basically normally on the bottom right, depending on the motherboard again, which will connect down the bottom there. As you can tell there, it will automatically cable manages it for us, which will basically that'd be more of a blessing anyway. Maybe in another video I discuss multiple different cables and capabilities of changing colored cables, but we're just doing basic stuff for now. So what we've got there is basically your audio ports, like for your headphones, your microphone, and stuff like that, all on the front here, and your power switch, which is located somewhere. This case is a bit different for me. So what we can do here is apply the CPU power. So the CPU power, which will obviously, there you go, connected there. Pretty basic, so that will run down there. And it'll run up the top. So it'll be up to you again for your desire to where to run the cables. Normally people like the supposedly quote-mark professional cable management. With me, IRL, my personal build, it's not obviously the best. But it gives us the insight on this case, obviously, on how well the cables can be managed and ran. We'll just connect the fans down here. Again, sometimes these builds are quite limited. They can be either daisy chained off each other, they can be either ran off each other through different power. So by the looks of it, these fans have been daisy chained off each other, which is not too bad, but all the fans will be running at the same speed, which is not too bad in my personal opinion, because it gets the same amount of airflow, or the same RPM, so that's rotations per minute, through all fans that are connected to together. Okay, so now we've got that sorted. We've got the RAM, processor, cooler, motherboard. Obviously, there's some storage under there as well. Well, I guess you can use that as a boot drive. It'll be well, if you set this as your boot drive, obviously when you're installing your operating system, it will boot it up like within a matter of moments. So what we're going to do now is install a form of hard drive. So let's get down to storage. So these can be quite expensive, some inexpensive. Some of these are quite useful for a backup form of storage. As we can see here, it's like the transfer speeds. So that's basically moving files from one file to another. Anything in a higher capacity will have anything over normally a 2 terabyte will have a lower RPM speed. So 3 terabytes would be 5400 RPM due to it being the reliability of the read and write speed. So it doesn't miss the files and it doesn't have any issues. Obviously it's still the same speeds for the 4 terabytes. It gives us certain stats and information about the certain drives, but obviously Seagate, we know that. We know what's going to happen there. So we're going to open the drive bays. Drive bays is pretty simple. Normally the drive bays will have 4 different sections, or they will have clips. you can gently slide in the hard drives there, which would just go on the top there, and you can close them just back up like that. By the looks of it, these ones were just, you can pull them all the way out, drop the hard drives in, and you can just slide it back in just like that. There you go, we've got a drive in there. So these ones are pretty simple. They require a data cable, which will be on these sort of ports just here. These are the SATA, which obviously will give us, well, I wouldn't say where it matters, where it could go, but that's the data, obviously, for it to transfer the data. And obviously you need some power. As you can tell down here, it's the peripherals. So there you go, that's nice, that's all nice and powered. That's pretty simple, just like that. Some of the drive bays may need screws, some of them require full screws either down the side, some of them may require just underneath little tiny ones. In some cases we'll give you a small bag sometimes with a bag of screws, and you know, standoffs for the motherboard as well. Okay, so let's just quickly move on to a graphics card. We're going to do anything, well, I might say that's too fancy. Well, it's like we need to remove something first. Okay, so these PCI covers, they can be installed and maybe reinserted on later on. But let's go back to inserting that. There you go. That will sit there just like that, nice and snug. There's a little tiny clip just on these ports as well. You can push them down before inserting, and you know, you just press it down firmly. You will hear a click. That's just the small click will be the port. Well, the clip there coming back up to locking into place. Just a little bit like these RAM slots on the top. Quite beneficial for later on. Depending on the motherboard, depending on how big it is and how firm you've screwed it in, you can get graphics cards sag. Some of the older systems, depending on the card. So the PCB, printed circuit board, just on back here for where the hole in the memory and so all the process and stuff is all sat on the back here. That basically, it gets a bit heavy for the socket, or sometimes the board warps from over usage and stuff, but it doesn't cause an issue, just might be a bit ugly. Again, so that's pretty much basic, that's inserted there. The cooling obviously is all done, and it's got its own sort of fan. It doesn't need anything. No fancy, you know, no fancy special attachments to it. So what we're gonna do, go on to cables. We're gonna run both of these into the peripherals here. There you go. And there's another one. And just run straight down there. Sometimes people say it's a bit messy, but you can always run it through here, maybe through there, and around here, so you can just keep it tightly. Again, this is your personal opinion when you want to run the cables. So I think so far it's not that bad, but this I guess you could say would be pretty much a basic setup. So for now, yeah, I would agree with this. So up here you may be wondering, no, well I got nowhere to play on my disk stuff. If you were to get like a disk version of Windows 10, that's no biggie. What we can do is, I could explain this obviously from myself. So these bays up here, these can be removed. You can remove the front cover, so I'm pretty sure you can remove these. Yeah, you remove these case panels. Your drive bays can be inserted into here, so they will just slide into there, but like one of the hard drives. There'll be clips here that you probably just have to pop off, or they will unscrew. And some cases just allows you to screw the drive bays into the DVD drive bays, read and write speeds and stuff like that. Obviously, they're all done by that. It's a bit like a DVD player. Then the SATA cables will be ran a little bit like the hard drives. So you'll have a SATA power, depending on the system again, depending how old it is. You'll have a SATA power and SATA data as well, which will again plug into the same sort of ports on the motherboard. It will read up in the system and into the Windows, which allows you to start obviously your CDs. Okay, so this is pretty much it. Together, we're just gonna go and insert the rest of the rest of the PC stuff that we have removed. We'll just pop them back in there because it's just a natural habit of what we can do. I'll put the front panel back on there as well. Yeah, we need that cover. The class is beauty panels. Obviously, if you do remove them, it makes your case a bit holy. But oh, I have missed. SSDs can be inserted here, but I'm pretty sure this is where you can insert up to maybe a 360mm AIO. AIOs are all-in-one coolers as well, but we can just add that back on there. don't mind me. Run these back on. It's pretty simple. Try to hurry this up for you guys. There you go, simple. Sometimes together, there you go. Looks aesthetically clean in the game, but again, due to many reasons, I cannot show you IRL. Otherwise, I would do videos for you guys. I know there's plenty more experts out there compared to me, but again, I'm no fancy guy. I've got this. I would make more videos for you guys. If you do like, please do like, subscribe. This is probably going to be my first one, or should I say second? So there you go, plug on all your peripherals like keyboard, mouse, monitor, just give it a moment. So what we're going to need to do, you take your operating system, depending on what it will come on. It may come on a USB stick, so you just take the, if it comes on a USB stick, just take that, set it into one of the USB ports at the back. And maybe your power supply is not switched on if you're wondering why. Oh no. So when you go around to the back, just hit that switch there, give it a test, still not coming on. Okay. So just double check these cables. Basically, it'd be your front panels. There's normally a reset switch, a speaker, your headphone ports, and your USB ports. Your USB ports will be completely different. Your USB ports will be run down one cable, which will insert into here. This little tiny slot. They're quite thick, but it will obviously grant you access to use them ports. They will powered through there as well. But just check the motherboard manual, and it will definitely say there normally the configuration and which way to put these little cables down here. But never mind, this is a simulation. So what we're going to do is power on the computer, hope for the best, and I've done this right. So we do on the BIOS. So the CPU speed is 4,250 megahertz. CPU temp 42 degrees. That's relatively stable. We can overclock the RAM a little bit, which is XMP. We can turn that on. 2933. Not all the time your RAM speed is going to hit the max ends due to RAM voltage, but again, 2933, the RAM speed is more than enough for what we need. So what we're going to do, obviously, this is the M2 drive, which will basically allow us to be our operating system. Obviously, it'll be a completely different name. You could have a Samsung, you could have Adapter again, you could get anything. So, again, normally what we're going to do with it being an SSD, apply changes and restart. There you go. With the Windows, you just run your Windows operating system setup, and hey presto, we've got a working PC. Boom. Again, you can add and remove your programs, catch Wi-Fi. Your Wi-Fi cards are going to be a little bit different, but obviously they're not being in this game. It's not that bad. There's some lighting in this, there'll be some fan speeds and stuff, but yeah, there won't be nothing too fancy. You can add lights to it later on. You can add also Wi-Fi cards, which will go into these tiny little slots down here. But again, that's probably for another day. Maybe if I'll be able to show you in IRL, maybe in past. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, if you need any more help, I guess maybe I can try and comment some few suggestions. My recommendation on cases and stuff, you know, I'm always willing to listen to what people have to say. But hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you guys next time.